Good morning. It is Saturday morning. We got some serious news this time. We got an episode that may not be suitable for all Collectors Radio Show viewers, followers, listeners, and all that. Just a warning. This episode is probably rated R. We'll probably have to see, because I think the rating board has said, you know what, this Collectors Radio episode is going to be rated R. So just a fair warning ahead of time. This episode may not be your episode. It may be suitable for you to view or listen to. So, anyway, now that we got that out of the way, it's Saturday morning. Yes, you're tuned in, and we're going to go ahead and read some comments and everything. October is abound, so you know what a perfect time to show you something scary, something that will horrify you, maybe. Okay, so but let's go ahead and read through some comments here in no particular order. And again, you know, the comments here, if your comment was not read or whatnot, it might be too late in the production here that we've done it afterwards or whatnot, or it got pulled by the moderators, usually if you try to add any links or anything like that, so keep that in mind. Or your comment was just too crazy for the channel, as this episode, it's just crazy to begin with. So it you know what, like I said, this episode is rated R. So anyway, here we go. First one up is from Warren. It says, another great video. I totally agree with Colt reproducing regular war gun replica 1911s and what Rock Island Armory, Chiapa, and T-Sauce do. I totally agree. T-Sauce, to me right now, so far, what I've been seeing on the market, T-Sauce is probably the best company that's doing the World War I A1 copy 1911. When you see them in the cases, it shows shops, whatnot. You almost can swear when you see them. You're like, hey, that's a World War II, you know. But that's how close they are. So excellent. They're definitely excellent. And have them in different calibers. Yes, absolutely. Also wish Springfield would do the same with mil-spec. I do too. I would love to see Springfield go back and do their World War I replica themselves. That's what I would like to see. I would like them to see them do an accurate World War I pistol, and that's what I mean by that one. I mean, not just do something that's like, well, it's got the, you know, it's a combination of A1 and all that. No, I want to see like an actual one where they go back through, do it right, go back, look at your blueprints or your old school, or somebody get a hold of one. Or, you know, I'm sure that there's somebody that they have access to, that they have like, hey, I have a legit one, here it is. Hey, let's take a look at this thing. How do we copy this, recreate this? It wouldn't be, you know, to me, it would be a great ideal in the market. And speaking of those type of things, I'm gonna say I'm a big, I would say big on a big note on that. Keep them as a regular production line thing. Don't just make 500 or 5,000 and then release them, and then basically the market goes like a frenzy and people pay quadruple prices for them because there's not enough of them out there. I want something that's being mass produced. It's going to be a regular item on their market. It's priced not much different than the regular stuff that they're producing as it is. That way we can get them, we can enjoy them, we can shoot them, and it doesn't matter. Yes, that's what I'm looking forward to, stuff like that, because we'll get into this, because there's something that does bother me about the collector's market, and we'll get into that further into the show. So, all right, Harrison Mantooth says, good morning. I thoroughly enjoyed listening and watching this morning's Collectors Radio episode as I reflect upon my firearms collection. I would have to say I too am a purist. I love the blued or parkerized metal and wooden stocks. I personally, I have nothing personally against stainless steel or polymer synthetic firearms. It's just not something I lean towards. And I myself, I gotta say, I'm not much of a polymer wonder guy either. Although, you know, we'll discuss a little bit about that. I lean towards. I grew up as exposed to firearms long before these current materials were even thought about. You're reading of, I believe it was Shane's comment from Washington State. Oh, okay. I thought about my own experience while I was living in California. We have in northern Idaho almost 4 years ago. We moved to northern Idaho almost 4 years ago. You can believe that draconian regime in California is worse now than when I lived there. Let's see, my wife and I are traveling to Arizona next Sunday to spend the winter months with my youngest son and family. Perhaps I'll be running into you in one of the gun shops. I want to visit that shop you mentioned a couple of months back. IIRC. Sorry if I'm not sure. You said you carried a lot. They carried a lot of older firearms. I'll most likely be hearing next week's episode while on the road. Take care. Be safe. Stan, hopefully you're having a safe travel on the road. Hopefully you made it okay. Those shops that I'm talking about, I would definitely say at least in the Pima County area, would be like Tucson. Highly recommend Murphy's Gun Shop and Frontier. Good old Frontier Gun Shop. That is my buddy Jim over there. Great guy. Get a lot of cool stuff from him. I sell him a lot of my stuff. In fact, the majority of things that I let go usually ends up with him, because then he finds a really good owner for it. And usually the people that are shopping there are good people, and they're gonna, give my stuff a new home for somebody else to enjoy it. All right. So yeah, those are some really good stuff. I do want to say a personal shout out to Murphy's Gun Shop down there. It's quite a bit of ways away from me, but I do make the commute. Excuse me, I do make the commute every now and then to just kind of pop in there, because they have helped me out a lot with doing some stuff, transferring some really high-end things for me. Making it easier for me to make that kind of a purchase, and then to handle the transaction, the transfer of some of that stuff. They also have really good stuff in there. You pop in there, and you know what? Whenever you're looking for old stuff, they have a lot of things in that shop that are priced to sell, and you got to be realistic with prices these days. And I get that. This is not 50 years ago where this stuff was this price or whatnot. Times have gone on. You got to kind of expect it. You're gonna have to pay for these items that you want. If you want them, you're gonna have to kind of get up there. And just like throw something out there. If I was gonna go out and look for a vintage Model 29, Smith & Wesson revolver or something like that, I would make sure I had about $2,000 to just kind of at my disposal. Just if I'm gonna go hunting and I see it, I don't want to, get buck fever and then walk away, with my, my tail between my legs, because I saw it, but I shook and I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull the trigger because I only brought like $1,000 with me or something like that. You got to be ready for those things. You got to be willing to step up and pull the trigger when you see them, if it's something you really want. If not, then let it go. It's just, so there's a lot to say about that. All right, Danger Man, as a collector, I have always had my eye out for a good deal on an original. Don't we all? We were just talking about that, but unfortunately, some of the prices are ridiculous. I was watching the bidding on a 1973 Smith & Wesson Model 27-2 with a 3.5-inch barrel and Magna grips. Oh yeah, the bad guy gun from 7-Ups. Yes, and friends of Eddie Coyle. That's right. Granted, it was very nice, but it ended up going for $24.25. Yes, that doesn't surprise me at all. Those kind of prices do not surprise me, especially for that kind of stuff. That's what I mean. I didn't even read that comment yet, but that's what I meant about, if you're going out there, like you said, you got to have, but that is high. That is high. But all those odd barrel ones like that, they will always bump that price up a little bit. They're always gonna jack that price tag up a little bit more than what the normal one would have been. The odd numbers are like that. We had gotten lend a 5-inch barrel model 29 with a full underlug with a smooth cylinder. Those are very, very pricey. We got that one on loan for the channel, so we could video it for you. All right, so granted, it was very nice, but that's Python Model 29 prices. Not worth it. Discouraging to say the least. I would be okay with a new retro gun as long as it was priced right and it's close to the original. I think the gun manufacturers would find they would make a nice profit by giving the people what they want. Kudos for Glock for doing that. There's a hint. Danger Man, very good comment. That was a very, very good rundown there. Squid, 1911. The show format is good for listening to while doing other things like plumbing repairs or editing videos. Yes, glad to be there to chime in with people that are listening, maybe being on the road to a long road trip, or maybe at work, or trying to get the time to pass. So we do appreciate that. That everybody's listening and tuning in that way. Jeffrey Richardson, good morning. Cold coffee today. Cold coffee. And yes, love the old school look more myself. P.S. Totally agree with you about the gold cups. Let mine go. Yeah, I gotta say, guys know I'm a Colt fanboy. Always will be. Love the old Colts, but them Gold Cup National Match pistols, they're too fragile. You shoot them up and they end up shaking around like an old, like an old junker vehicle or something. I mean, I hate to say it, but it is true. They don't hold up very well. They really don't. So, sorry to say that. I like Colt, and I like Colt 1911s. Y'all know that. But I'm not a fan of the Gold Cups, national matches. There are way better guns out there. I would rather have a Springfield Armory, Garrison or something to shoot. If I was gonna have something I wanted to run at the range, something like that. Led 8541. It's good to see Led back around again, and glad he's here listening. Love that mug. Brings back memories when I saw that first movie. Yeah, the old Freddy mug. He'll have to make another appearance here coming up. Joe, swig of coffee for Joe. Love the new mug, and if anybody likes old Glocks, they should move to California. You can only legally purchase Gen 3 or older and have to be from Austria. Nothing made in the U.S. allowed. Makes total sense, right? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense there. Here's how we deal with it. Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, the older Glocks. Like I said, this to my buddy in Tennessee, I tell you, he was the only one that I feel like when I was, I should have known better all those years ago, but he was the only one that knew about that. Those old Glocks, man, I can't believe that. Bohemian Hunting Club, price is my biggest deterrent. Cool mug, by the way. And Bohemian Hunting Club, by the way, fellas, that comment right there, I did scan through these comments earlier during the week. I didn't get the chance to read them all thoroughly, but I did kind of catch that one because it's a shorter comment. My biggest deterrent, my price is my biggest deterrent. That is me. That is so me. Yes, the price tag is my biggest deterrent. Something may be manufactured to a certain extent, and the price tag on it is probably what they got to do to offset cost or whatever. But yes, that may be. But for me as a consumer, the price is my biggest deterrent. I guess you could say my input on pricing and firearms and stuff like that, to me, the sweet spot in pricing for me is between the 400 and 650. Let's just say 450, 650. That's the sweet zone to me in purchasing stuff, being able to go, I can swing that. I'm willing to, yeah, let's do that. I really want that. Of course, I've been really picky these days about taking stuff on in my personal collection anymore, just because I've been mostly clearing stuff out versus accumulating. So I'm just very, very, very picky. Not so much just grabbing anything and everything. So I guess you could also say over the years, I've had so many. I've had things in the shop, being in the gun, shops and stuff, working in the gun shops, pretty much being, in charge of one, if you will, and just having it all together right there, and just, without sounding so like egotistical, but I've had them all. I've had all the cool stuff that I could possibly imagine, but had them, sold them, got rid of them, had my chance to check them out and everything like that over the years. So like I said, I'm not trying to sound so like, ego, but that's just kind of where it's gotten to the point where I'm just kind of limiting now down to, just a few things now. All right. Crazy Scotsman, couple grand for Plastic Fantastic. Absolutely not. I couldn't agree with you anymore. I think that's absolutely insane. I agree that companies making repops is important. It helps the older market come down. I'm a fan of that. Yes, as a consumer, I would like to be able to buy some of the collectibles and not have to take out like a life insurance policy to get it. Paycheck to paycheck is right. I work 2 jobs just to stay afloat. Colt, like others, built a name for themselves and run off of it. Yes, thinking people will pay whatever is asked, but I think it's just like you folks are waking up and realizing older stuff is more affordable and reliable. Yeah, there is a thing to that. Like, a great example about the older stuff being more affordable and reliable. People looking for a revolver. Go find an old Model 10. An old 38 special 4-inch barrel. There was a whole squillion of those made. And you can usually pick them up for a decent price. And I would definitely pick up one of those before anything else. If I was just looking for a revolver, it's great for range, great for protection, all that stuff. All right. Kenny is not crazy about the black and white lighting. Okay, we'll try to, we'll keep that in mind. We like to change things up a little bit, but we'll keep that in mind. All right, Squib Lift. Creepy Freddy Krueger mug. Antonio says, hi to you. Okay, we've answered this question before, and I'll go ahead and answer it again. This question is, I wish you a simple question. What's the Sear depressor? How does it work? What does it improve? In which pistol was it applied? Question mark. So long, Lost Hawaiian. Okay, the only thing I can think of you're asking, which is the same thing I've answered this. The Sear depressor gizmo thing was originally, to me, I'm not a virtuoso on this. I only know from my headache experience with one. They're installed in the Gold Cup Series 70 1911s. That's the first time I've ever seen one. You go to pull that thing apart, it's a little piece of metal that's like wraps around the Sear. The Sear looks like a claw like this, and it kind of attaches itself to the side of the Sear, kind of does a serpentine kind of look, if I recall right. And it's got a little itty bitty spring that lives on the bottom of it or somewhere, and it wedges itself between the device and the Sear itself. And imagine now trying to put this all back together in the frame. You have to install that with the disconnector and then shove it up in there. Imagine trying to do all that. I don't know. What a pain in the butt. That's all I can say is what does it do? From what I understand, what it does is because the Gold Cup had such a really soft trigger on it, you could say. I mean, I don't know what other way to. It has a really great trigger on it. Part of the trick to get that trigger so soft and light is they added this Sear depressor thing on it to help the Sear stay engaged, so the gun doesn't double fire on you. Basically, from what in layman's terms, from what I did, research on it that I could find, that's what I found out about it. I will say this: that damn thing is a pain in the ass. It's a curse. The new Colt Gold Cups, thank goodness, do not have that. They did away with that, obviously for good reason. Don't ever pull those things apart unless you absolutely need to, because you need to make a slave pin to get that thing back together. So hopefully that answers the question. It's a big, utter failure. It's terrible. It's a terrible design. There should have been another way to go about it. But then again, it is dated, so it could be having to do with something that's that's what they had, that's what they came up with for the times. Okay, so we're going to get to talking about this, and a lot of you touched on these comments. A lot of them touched on the subject in question of today's radio show. Yeah, I'm a big fan of reproduction stuff. I really am, because a good example with this stuff is these single action armies. You can go and buy a true blue Colt and pay $3,000 for them. I don't know. They're probably even more now. You can do that. I think that's really overly priced. But you can go and buy a Italian imported one that's a really good copy of one that is not, it's so well, I mean, you almost can't tell them apart, kind of a copy, which is that in my book is a really good copy of one. That's what I'm talking about. And when you can do that and you can purchase one for $500 or $600, basically you're talking about a fraction of the price. That is a good buy to me. That's something that interests me in the repop world. That's the kind of stuff that interests me. Now Colt, we'll say Colt has done some really good reproduction stuff, and what I mean by reproductions in general, I want them to be as close to the original as they can possibly get it. I don't want them to just kind of say, well, it looks a little bit like the original, so we're just going to call it repop. No, I want them to go back and really do it well. And Colt needs to understand this, and I don't know if they do or they just blatantly disregard its customers. A lot of us that like Colt, myself included, and I'm going to include myself 5 times over, because it's really true, that we like the markings on a lot of these old vintage stuff that they did. The old military markings or the government property markings on the receivers of the old ARs and stuff that they did. Now they've done these, they have introduced these, they have put them out there, but they put them out in such limited runs. It drives the market up. It makes it so that they only made X amount of these, so that it drives the prices up. Hardly anybody's got one, and if you get one, are you going to shoot it? Or are you going to cry when it scratches or whatnot? That's what I don't like. I want them to be a regular production line stuff. I want the market to be flooded with them. I want them to be not, okay, if you're going to make them a little bit higher, fine, mark it up, $50, maybe $100, okay, maybe. But it better be damn good, but not something that's marked up a couple grand. Come on, people. Let's not do that. The Python is a great example. Colt did well with the Python. I'm glad that they did the Python, the King Cobra, the Anaconda. I'm really glad that they did that. They put those on the market. I'm hoping they're going to do the Royal Blue. That's going to be the ultimate. They start doing these in Royal Blue, especially the Python. We're golden. then that means, you know, and that's what I mean about that, the other side of that market. You know, these kind of guys that bought a lot of these things, they're gun dealers or whatnot. They bought a whole slew of these old pythons or whatnot, and they got them all stored in their little precious cabinets, and they're trying to sell them to people like you and I for just astronomical, ridiculous prices, because they think that they got the market by the balls, and they're going to be able to just gouge you for whatever they can. A lot of us, you know, that, yeah, I don't have the money, we don't have the money, so we're going to have to pass on it. And I mean, it's like, you know, whatever. But the one great thing about like this python, one thing is great about it is it did. I do believe it drove the market down on the originals. To me, the originals came down to a more, not totally reasonable, but a little bit more reasonable. I have seen the gun broker auctions where now the ones that are around 2,000, 2,200, 2,400, they're sitting on them. You know, they're available and they're sitting on them. So to me, I'm not trying to, you know, like, say, oh, I'm glad that, you know, anything like that, but I'm actually, yeah, I am kind of glad that, you know, to see that, because hopefully it'll make the prices come back down to a little bit more reasonable, because you can get a newer one that's working well, that's totally shootable at the range. They made the upgrades, they made the right changes for the good, to make that revolver shootable. Take it out, enjoy it, have fun with it. Run a steady diet of 357 if you want to. That stuff is awesome. So that kind of thing is what I'm mostly talking about. I dabbled in the reproduction market myself with grips. Long time ago, at once upon a time, Colt made grips that look like this. The old brown, chocolate brown or whatever, with the orange kind of, you know, swirl patterns going through them. Of course, you know, you go on to like those auction sites, I've seen them. Hundreds of dollars for these things. Give me a break. What the heck? So I decided that I started looking into it. I said, I'm going to figure out how to reproduce these. I didn't do it to sell them to make money. I just want to do it for myself, really. I've given away more than I've sold on those things, you know. So that's just the way it goes. But I did offer, you know, people a chance to purchase some of my grips. Those of you that did, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. To be honest with you, I foresee no future in ever making them for sale again. I'm sad to say I don't see how that could ever happen. It's just, I don't know. I'm not going to say never, because never say never, but I just, at this point, I don't see anything evolving for that. Okay, so let's get into this. What do we have? Because I know I've waited about half an hour now for us to talk about this thing. We have gotten something for the radio show, and I'm actually going to do a main video with it while we got it, because it's going to be awesome to do. Because I don't want to miss the opportunity when I can get my hands on stuff like this to actually video it for you guys. What is it? Outer cover comes off. What is it? It's the Glock 17 Classic Gen 1 reproduction gun. This is super cool. Look at that. Okay, I'll say this right now. I know. Oh yeah, this is what I meant about it. I can hear it now. Okay, I'm not the biggest polymer wonder guy. You know that. Out of all of them, I do kind of like Glocks. Because of they're seen in so many movies and whatnot. I like it. I like them because they're simple. There's not a lot of parts in them. But I'll tell you this: never in my collection have I ever kept one very long. They've always gotten rid of them. They've come and gone for me. They were like a fad. Sometimes I'm really into them a little bit, and I'll run them, and then I end up selling them. I can't even count how many I've done that with. I personally got one. It's an old Gen 2 that I have. It's a 17 Gen 2. And that's it. That's all I've got. But this is really cool because the Gen 1 17 Classic, let's open this up. It's got a really cool, deal. It's got all this stuff. Certificate of authenticity. Sorry, I can't help but laugh. I don't know what all that stuff is. Cleaning rods, stuff like that. But here's the cool thing. The reproduction Tupperware box. Okay, on top of this really cool outer box that they done a really good job. This thing MSRP is for about, I think it's like $20 over the normal cost for like a Gen 5. I don't know much about the Gen 5. I didn't really pay that much attention past like a certain point with these things. But yeah, it doesn't MSRP much more than a Gen 5 on those. So, but you could almost justify that being, I mean, it does come with a really cool box. The fact that they went back and redid the Tupperware that it came with the sticker and everything on top of that thing, that's really cool that they did. Let's pop this thing open. There it is, right there. So they went back and they actually redid the mold because I believe the original mold was repurposed for something else. But it's got that pebble stone, you know, kind of a stippling job done to it. There's no accessory rail. Of course, the finish on the slide is not going to be the original Tenifer because the original Tenifer, I think it was a cyanide base, and they, you know, obviously you can see how that's got bad news written all over it. But no, they went back. I mean, they did this well. Kudos to Glock. Yeah, comment said that. Yes, I will say that. Definitely a big round of applause to them because they went back and they gave a lot of the people like myself that was always kind of like, hey, that'd be kind of cool to have an original Gen 1 Glock. But I wasn't going to pay no $1,500, $2,000 that I seen some of them go for. That's ridiculous. So, but anyway, we gotten this one to sample. I was actually fortunate enough to be a part of the we got to take it to the range, and we actually did get to shoot it, which we put a lot of rounds through this thing, quite a bit. We just had a big pile of 9mm, and we said, hey, just go for it, you know, run some rounds through it. And we were just, yeah, it was like, whoa, okay, let's do it. You know, so and it ran really good. It ran good for me. My buddy had a couple weird hiccups with it, but it is, I mean, it's slick. And it maybe, you know, right away because it is new, it's still stiff. Maybe it doesn't forgive limp wristing. I don't know. I don't mean to say that about my friend, but no, it seemed to run pretty good. Of course, you know, ammunition. It could be the ammo. The ammo that we were using was kind of not the greatest stuff. But anyway, but something like this is really cool because now. A little bit backstory. That's why I was really excited because I gotten wind that we were going to be able to get our hands on one of these for sampling and taking a look at. So I was actually following a Glock Gen 1 on Gunbroker, and it was funny because the story is I saw it there and I said, hey, that's really cool. So I started following it a little bit, and then I noticed the people that were selling it was a local shop down here in town that's really close to, you know, I knew the place. I was like, hey, I actually go there quite often. I didn't know that they had this thing. So, of course, I'm watching out, and nobody's bidding on this thing. It's like $700. Nobody's bidding on it. And I thought, well, what an interesting thing. Maybe I can go down there and maybe they'll sell it to me for $700. I don't know. I mean, I felt like $700 to me was a little, you know, I was like, yeah, it's a little high. But considering that the standard Glocks are right around $650-ish, you know, depending, you can actually get them less, more in the $550 range. So again, you know, they kind of fall in that sweet spot kind of price range. So I thought about it, said, you know, $7, maybe they'll come down. I don't know. Let's go see and check it out if they got one. So I go down there. I'm checking them out. They finally actually told me, oh yeah, it's actually in our other section of the store. You got to go through because that's where they handle the gunbroker auctions. So I go there, gunbroker auctions. I said, hey, guy had it in the counter. He said, oh, is this what you want to look at? I said, yeah. I saw it and I was like, wow, I never actually really seen one, a legit one up close like that. So I was looking at it, it's in really good shape. And the first thing I noticed right away is the casting marks on the frame. They were so bad because you could totally see where the two halves were put together. And then the stippling where it met on the bottom, where it was smooth, the stippling transition, I think it was actually on this side. You could actually see the stippling off-canted like this because it didn't match up. It was bad. You could tell it was pretty sloppy work. But nevertheless, it was the Glock 17 Gen 1. I said, wow, that's cool. So I kind of asked them, well, how do I buy it? Can I buy it? They basically shut me down. They said, they weren't rude about it or anything. But they said, no, it's an auction. We anticipate this thing going for a lot of money. They basically was like, hey, we got this, crown jewel, and, we're going to get a whole bunch of money for it and whatnot. So I said, okay. I said, next question then. I said, for instance, what if I throw a bid on the thing and I win? And he said, oh, if you do and you win, just come down here and we'll take care of it. I said, oh, okay, sounds good. So I'm watching this thing for a while. Finally comes down to the final end, the days. I think it was ending on a Sunday or something. I was watching it, and I put my bid in for the 700, and then, sure enough, somebody starts stepping in there. They start bidding it up. I think I capped out about $725 or something like that. I think they capped out. Basically, what happened was this gun went for $1,100. Blew my mind. I still could not believe it, and I thought to myself too, why'd they wait so long? Why'd they wait till the last day? Because if you're familiar with Gunbroker, the way it works, it's got to go through a thing called the 15-minute rule. So your stuff goes on. Even if you're the only bidder, your bid has to stay for 15 minutes. Basically, it gives the thing of going once, going twice, sold American. So that's kind of the way it goes. So it doesn't matter when you bid. It's just a matter of, because that whole idea of coming in at the last minute, like, oh, it's 30 seconds to, that doesn't work. You can't do that anymore. I think eBay still can. But anyway, no, Gunbroker, you can't. They won't do that. A lot of times it's the 15-minute rule. So anyway, I said, out of heck with that. And I knew that they'd done this. They had done the other one beforehand, was called the Pistol 80. I actually had one of those. I did a video on it and everything like that. I ended up sending that down the road. I didn't like it, mainly because it said P80 on it. And I didn't like what that is now synonymous with. And it had nothing to do with that. So, but yeah, this one here, I heard that they did it later, and I thought, well, that's the way to go, because it's actually marked 17 on it, and it's got the original Gen 1 configuration. For the most part, yes, it is the Gen 1 configuration. There's some minor changes that they did, but the changes are like for the better of it. I heard they beefed up in front here a little bit better than the original one. But that's obviously for the better. And everything from what I can tell from when I went down there and looked at the original one, the stippling and everything looks, that's it. There's no difference. It's got the small magazine release. It's even got the flat extractor. Now, I will tell you this, the one thing that I know on it about the extractor, the flat extractor, it's actually the newer models. If you look at the face of this, it's actually tilted down. It's got a slight angle bevel to it. The original ones don't have that. They're straight on. So it's making the extractor longer on the originals, but still, nevertheless, it's a flat extractor. And honestly, if you really didn't know that, I guess you really wouldn't notice that at all. Still the old school plastic sights that they still rock on there, most of their stuff, unless you have the adjustable one, and all that. The barrel, obviously you're just going to get one of their, standard production barrel. They didn't go and do the pencil barrel deal. I think that would just be too costly. And why? Why not get the more durable barrel? Basically, in a nutshell, what you have here is a really good clone of the Gen 1 that's a shooter. Take it out, enjoy it. Now, I would say, to me, if they tried to do something like this and said it's $1,000, I would say, no way. But they did it right, and they offered it for pretty much the same price as their other stuff. I hope Glock continues to offer this thing as a regular production gun that they do, because I think that's great. I also believe that that's another reason why the Glock, the Gen 1s, have gotten down to the $1,100, $1,000 mark, and that's kind of where they're settling, versus when they were being sold for like $2,500 to $2,000. The thing is, because the majority of people that, like me, that would have an interest in nostalgia would actually just rather go get something like this. That way they can enjoy it, shoot it, and all that kind of stuff. So I know, kind of going a little overboard with it, but I think it's really cool that they offer something like that you can actually get your hands on. Having the original Tupperware box is just phenomenal. That's such a great addition to the whole bit right there, is having this box right there. So anyway, really cool. I was really awesome to get our hands on one, to get it to check it out, and I was very lucky. We got to shoot it and do all that kind of jazz with it. So it was really cool. So yeah, there it is. For the most part, it's cool. I would say if you have an itch for a Gen 1, this would definitely fill that itch. So look for the review. We'll do a full review on this thing, and so we'll be showing it. Let me get this thing out of the way. You can totally tell I know my way around these things like no tomorrow. But anyway, yeah, that's it. Like I said, the paperwork and stuff like that, it comes with this certificate of authenticity. Put the future in the palm of your hand. The Glock 17, it's got some write-ups on it. So with only 33 parts, including the magazine components, it's pretty impressive. But yeah, this says hereby certifies this, to all that. So really cool. Again, I hope they actually continue to offer this thing. I'm not one that I don't own a bunch of Glocks. Like I said, I own that one Gen 2, but I like the Tupperware box better than that little briefcase thing. My Gen 2 is an old Tupperware box, so really cool. Anyway, thanks for tuning in with us and checking us out this time around and everything, and bearing with us for the horror, right? Some of you, most of you probably left already. Anyway, the horror. If you're still here, comment the horror.